If you're new around here, you might not know that I love dynamic data in WordPress, and particularly in Bricks, which is my page builder of choice currently. In one of my recent videos, however, in the comments section, I got a very interesting question about one particular setting in Bricks that, truth be told, I have never actually dove into and adjusted in any way. I've just kept it as default all the time because it made sense to how I utilize dynamic data, particularly custom post types. But once I got that question and looked into that setting, I realized that there are a couple niche cases where you might want to actually play with that setting and adjust it to fit your project needs specifically. So I just wanted to make a quick video with an example or two. If that sounds interesting, stick around and we'll dive right into it. Real quick before we get started, I just want to give a huge thank you to the sponsor of today's video, BigScoots. They've been providing high quality managed hosting solutions since 2010, and perhaps even more impressive than their technology is their customer support, which is some of the best in all of WordPress. I actually had the pleasure of meeting the BigScoots team while I was out in Portland at WCUS 2024, and I can tell you from firsthand experience that they care about their customers and the greater WP community. If you're looking for a great hosting experience, I would strongly encourage you to click the link in the description and give BigScoots a try. Now let's get back to the video. So if we jump into WordPress here, just a couple quick notes. We have Bricks installed. Obviously, that's the most important because it's Bricks dependent video. We have Advanced Custom Fields Pro. You could use Jet Engine, you could use MetaBox. It doesn't matter. I just have Advanced Custom Fields Pro for the creation of the custom post types themselves. We have automatic CSS and frames because when we jump into the front end, I'm just going to use that just to speed up the design. Not necessary for this video. The only thing is really we're talking about these Bricks settings. So if we go into Bricks and we dive into the settings right here, the very first setting that you encounter is post types. That's the one we're talking about here, and that's the whole point of this video. You can see here that it says select post types to edit with Bricks. Now, when you think of edit with Bricks, it's literally the yellow button when you go to a page or anything else that says edit with Bricks. From the WordPress admin. Now, the main reason that I'm making this video is because actually to me, I never think about editing post types with my builder. And I'll try to explain what I mean by that. But if you can't fully wrap your head around it just from this video, I will leave a link and a card, link in the description, card up top for my free playlist here on YouTube called wpdynamicdata.co. If you just type that in, then you'll go straight to it. But that's like a whole playlist of everything you need to know using Bricks, Jet Engine, ACF, like a bunch of different tools to just understand the concepts. It is relatively tool agnostic. You don't need to actually be using those tools, but it's just a way to interact with them. But again, the concepts are really the important piece. And in this particular case, this setting actually kind of affects the way that you might think about dynamic data depending on how you have these settings set up. So by default here on WordPress installs, we're going to have posts and we're going to have pages. Posts are turned off because you're not going to want to edit each post individually using Bricks. Contrast that with pages where you probably are going to want to edit every single page with Bricks. Coupled with that explanation could be another way to say it, could be, do you want to create the page, the posts, whatever one you're talking about, right? Whatever CPT in this case, technically, there would be more of them, right? Do you want to create it individually, uniquely, every single one? Or do you want to use a templated approach? It's really going to depend on how you want the website to actually be. And you're going to have to ask this question of yourself for every single custom post type. So let's just dive into it. And I will show you all of the different ways here that I can think of to utilize this setting plus the way that you build to create exactly what you want using Bricks in WordPress. So let's head over to ACF here and we'll go to post types and we'll click on add new. Now it's important to understand that I'm going to be creating multiple of the same post type, but I'm doing it just for demonstration purposes because I want to show you using the same type of content, the different ways that we can actually design and deploy, so to speak, like the custom post types on the website using dynamic data and the structures that Bricks and WordPress kind of gives us. So all of these custom post types are going to be services technically, but we're going to kind of label them a little differently. So the best name that I can come up with for services that we're going to create unique designs for every single one is just services unique. Again, these names don't matter. I'm just trying to show you an example, but okay, so services unique, boom, boom, boom. We don't really need too much else. We can get rid of the editor if we really want to make it a little cleaner. And we can just say save changes. We can duplicate that post type and do another one here. This one I'm just going to call services templated, and then I'm going to save these changes. And that's enough post types to get us started for now. So let's go ahead over to field groups here. And the beauty of this, actually the beauty of ACF, specifically the way they handle this, is that we're going to be able to create just one field group, and we can go down to the bottom here and assign it to both of our service custom post types that we've created. So when we go back up to the top, we create our actual fields, then they will show up in our templated one or our unique one. Again, you're probably never gonna have to do it like that, but for this example, it works great. So above in our field group here, I've just created a couple fields: short description, description, and gallery. Again, if you're creating this actual services, you can create as many fields as you'd like to make sure that you have all the needed data. But for our example, this will do just fine. So I'm gonna come over to our services now, our custom post types here, and I'm just gonna add some dummy data in here just to kind of give us something to work with and look at on the front end. So I went ahead and added some services into our templated one and into our unique one. They're exactly the same for the purposes of this comparison here. Now what I want to do is I want to go back over to Bricks, and I'm going to go to settings. Now I want to show you what has happened. We've added new custom post types. They are both off here by default as far as like select what post types are editing with Bricks. Now to show you exactly what happens when you switch one of these on, we can go over to our unique, services unique, and we click on like this UX design one, for instance. And here's the real thing. If you are like me, if you're used to traditional dynamic data development, you're going to be thinking in terms of templates. You're going to be thinking, okay, well, for my services here in this style, regardless if you didn't have two, you would be thinking, okay, services, they're going to have a services archive, and then they're going to have a services single, and then all the services are going to look exactly the same. For some types of custom data, like custom post type data, it doesn't really fit exactly, right? If you're thinking about a blog post, you're probably gonna want every single blog post to look the same and just bring in the dynamic data. For services, and the reason I chose this is because I can think of instances where you wouldn't want every single service page to look exactly the same, and that's a case where you might want to use this tactic. So let me show you what happens when you come back over to settings and you check this box right here. You flip this toggle from services unique, for services unique in our case, and you press save settings. This is our services page right now. This is our unique post here for UX UI design. And if we reload, now we have this button that says edit with Bricks just from turning on that toggle. So again, this is the entire point of the video here, where now you've created a situation where instead of having to create a template and make all of your service pages look exactly the same, like the exact same layout, and just pull in dynamic data into a couple different spots, you can still have a custom post type for services, but you can uniquely design each one of the pages. And I can't give you an actual recommendation on which one to do, because it will very much depend on the design of the website and how you want to manage content. There's a lot of different things. I could give you some general like pros and cons. For instance, it's going to be more work now to manage because you're going to have multiple different services that you have to create, meaning that every single service in this case, you're probably going to want to, and you're going to have to create an actual, different layout for all of them. So if you're only going to have maybe like a handful of them, then it's totally feasible and can totally make sense. But I will also say the reason that I always normally go the other approach with a template, which I'll show you here in a second, is because it just works better for me a lot of times because it's more traditional, and I just know that I'm going to gather all this dynamic data, I'm going to create one layout, and then I'm going to put the dynamic data into each one of those instances of those services when people pull them up on the screen. So if this is new to you or confusing, I totally get it. Let me just click back over to the templated one just to show you that this is the same name for a service, but it's obviously in a different custom post type here. And this one does not have the edit with Bricks. So what I'm going to do on the front end is I'm going to create a situation where I can kind of show you the difference and give you an idea of maybe some of the ways that you might want to use this. So let's begin with what I would call like the more standard approach. And you can see all of this in the course, just wpdynamicdata.co, everything fully in depth there. But at a high level, the way that I normally think about custom post types is I create that custom post type, then I'll have an archive. That's not important for this tutorial specifically, but I would come into templates. I would come into add a new template. I would come over to the right-hand side here. I would click single, because the single is the page that displays one specific post or one specific service in this case from your custom post type. So of our examples here that we had, just like web development or UX UI design, it's that page. It's that one particular single service. And a lot of times you do want it to be templated. So you can name it whatever you want, services single, something like that, just to kind of make sure that you know what you're talking about there when you go back and look at it, publish, and then edit with Bricks. This is a very standard, Very traditional way, like I said. So what we are creating here, again, many of you may have done this before, is you're creating the actual single for that. I'm not going to go ahead and create it. I'm just going to throw in some frames just for us to just to speed this along. So I've gone ahead and thrown in a few frames here. Very simple. Nobody said this was a design tutorial, so completely just overlook that. Just trying to show you the examples here, okay? Up at the top, I have an H1 with just a post title. I have our ACF short description here for our little lead paragraph. I have another little headline down here that I just said more about, and then the post title, which again would be our service title. And then down here is our full description that we had there as well. So the next thing that we would have to do in this flow is we would come up to settings, we would come to template settings, conditions, add a condition, and then we would want to put this on our post type specifically for whatever post type we wanted. In our case right now, we're going to use the services templated because this is the templated approach. We'll save that, and then we'll take a look at what this actually returns. If we come back over to our services templated services here, our posts here, and we view all of them, we can see that the dynamic data is coming into each one of these singles. And this is, if you're familiar with dynamic data, right? If you've taken the course, so to speak, then this is what you're accustomed to. This makes total sense. You're probably utilizing this on so many different websites for so many different types of content. This is what you would expect to see. But if you're newer to dynamic data, or if you're just like trying to get like more creative with what you're talking about, this is what I would call 101. This is very standard. It's a single with information in here, but this is what's going to happen to you in this case particularly. And I think it's something to bear in mind, because you will come across a project or a type of content one day that you're going to be like, you know what, Mark, this just isn't going to work for what I want to do right here. And the reasons it might not work is because I don't want all of my service pages to just follow this one little flow that's, you know, like, again, you could make it more, you know, elaborate and everything like that. But the trouble you're going to run into is that, let's say that you wanted to add a section for digital marketing, right? You wanted to add another section in the middle of this service here that, you know, had some other content or like a gallery or something like that, right? So you're going to come back over to this template and you're going to go find a frame or something, and we could just do that real quick. It doesn't matter what you put into this page right now. It doesn't matter what section we put in. It doesn't matter anything like that. The point is that we're going to insert a section into this template. You're going to want to come back and you want to add something digital marketing, where you're going to have to add this section into your template. So now we have this template that has 3 sections in it, right? And we were content maybe before with the hero section and then our section down below, like being in every single service, but we wanted to have something extra in the digital marketing one. Okay, well, that makes sense. Okay, so now we're going to come in here and we're going to change all this data specifically for digital marketing. And then we're going to say, okay, well, the problem is we don't want this to show up on our other services. So what are we going to do here? Well, there's a nifty way you could handle this. You could come into this section here. You could go to conditions. You could add a condition, and you could say something like maybe post ID equals whatever the UX one is. So in this case, it would be, if we hover over edit, we can see at the very bottom there, it might be kind of small. We could say like 149. So then that would only show up on that one. So if we went post ID equals 149, we could save this. We could come back out to the front end. We refresh digital marketing. We don't see anything there. We come back over to UX UI design, and now we see it here. So again, I think I kind of mix those up, UX design and marketing, whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is that you could put a section onto UX design, UI UX design here, right? That doesn't show up on the other pages. You could do that via conditions. And again, it's all still controlled from the one template. That is an approach. The trouble is that you can only do so much of that before you're like, now there's like a ton of things on this template that we're editing. And like some of it goes to some pages, some of it goes to the other ones. Like not every service has all the same sections in it. And it just might get like really out of hand really fast. This might become a really big template with a ton of conditions in it. So this is why you really have to ask yourself at the beginning when you're going through the design and layout phase is, do most of the templates, you know, now and even into the future, like most of the singles, like from single to single, are they more of a templated style, or are they more of a bespoke design for each one of those services? If the answer is that they're templated, you could go this approach, maybe have a condition in there where, you know, and a bunch of other logic, you know, packed in. Like you could do a lot of stuff here. It's very flexible, but it's just something to think about. Again, this is more of the standard way to do it if it makes sense for you to go this route, but there is another option now that we know about this setting in Bricks. And it really is quite straightforward. I mean, if we head over to our services, our unique one in this case, we view our UX design here, UI UX design here, we're not going to see anything. The reason we're not going to see anything, it's a different custom post type. It doesn't have any templates associated with it. And we have that setting turned on where we can edit the post types directly through Bricks. So now that you see when we're at this version of our service, we have a button that says edit with Bricks up at the top. and we can edit with bricks just like we could and we're traditionally accustomed to doing with like just a regular page in WordPress. So what I've done here on this instance, so to speak, of this particular service of UI UX design is I've just inserted a frame, okay, just for a little bit of a design, and then I've changed the headline to post title. I've changed the description down here to short description, left everything else the same, just as it is. Once you save those changes and you pop back out to the front end now you have what I would call a unique service single. It's really, really important to understand what you did here, okay? Because you're still following best practices of the way that the data is structured and everything like that. Take a look at the URL bar. I know it's a little weird because we have the service unique thing going on here, but presumably yours would say services still /UI UX design. You're not doing anything weird in the pages junk drawer, so to speak, of WordPress, right? You're not like doing anything where you're like putting services and then you're doing like nested things or anything like that. We're not doing any of that. We are using dynamic data and like custom post types and things along those lines. This stuff is not all static because it doesn't have to be, because it is actually on a single. The only thing here is the way that we're actually designing the single is different. We're not using a template, we're uniquely styling and designing each one of these. And again, it's not for every use case. There's probably, in my opinion, more reasons to use the standard traditional approach, but this approach does makes sense in some cases for sure. To just prove this concept to you once more, I'm gonna come over back to our services unique custom post type. I'm gonna click on digital marketing and you're gonna see there's nothing here because again, we did not template these, we built these independently of one another, custom designed them. If we hop in and we edit with bricks, I'll just do the same thing real quick. I'll add a different frame and I will show you. So for our unique design for digital marketing, just threw in a different frame. I changed the post title out. I put the short description dynamic tag in there and then the same for the longer description. We saved it. We come back over to digital marketing and voila, we now have another look and feel. Again, styling a little wonky, not important, not the point of this video. We have two services now that are different in nature. They are still singles, right? They are still gonna be able to be referenced just as you would in a general, like a post or any sort of other custom post type, but they are uniquely styled and give you a lot more flexibility if you need it. So now that we know all that's possible, let me give you some real world advice to kind of tie all this together and give this a lot more practicality. When you're proposing a new project and you have all the custom post types listed in the proposal and as deliverables and everything like that, you have to think about how the design's gonna look, how you think the design's gonna look, because there's a couple really important pieces to this. One of the biggest is the fact that if you go with the unique approach, you're not creating pages again, but you are creating like screens or however you wanna say it. You're creating different designs for every single service. Think about what we just looked at here. We looked at a templated approach, we looked at the unique approach to essentially do the same thing. The end result is no real different. I know it will look different because I was trying to show you both examples here, but the end result is you have custom post type for services in this case. You have the same slugs that you would in either case, but you, the designer, the developer, whatever you call yourself, are doing way more work in the ones where you have to actually create separate designs for each of those. Those unique designs are going to add up, and this is why, again, this is not really gonna make sense for things where you have tons and tons of posts, or in this case, services, right? Services is always a nice one to use because you're probably only going to have maybe like less than 10, so to speak. I mean, it really depends obviously on the industry and everything. But the idea here is that it is useful in certain cases and it's very important to know and very helpful. But really think about this from a holistic point of view, not just the technical side, when you are like pricing these types of things. We could whip up the template in maybe a few minutes to an hour, depending on the design and everything like that. But in order to actually custom design all those other ones, it's definitely a huge difference. So just keep all that in mind, but hopefully you got something out of this video and learned a little bit more. If you did, smash that like button down below. If you have any questions, if I didn't make anything clear, please leave a comment. I will definitely get back to you. Check out the full dynamic data series at wpdynamicdata.co if you want to learn more about this stuff. It's super powerful. I highly recommend it. Thank you guys so much as always for watching, and I will talk to you in the next one.